5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have a go. From WSLR, LP 96.5 FM in Sarasota, and WBPV LP 100.1 FM in Bradenton, this is WSLR News and the fourth candidate forum in this election cycle from the freshly renovated Fogartyville Community Center. I'm Johannes Werner, News Director at WSLR, and moderating today is Noah Bookstein.
Happy to have with us two candidates for the Democratic primary party nomination to U.S. House District 17 who are facing elections on August 18th. The winner of the nomination will go on to face Republican incumbent Greg Steube in the November election. Steube was invited to participate today but did not respond. Boo. Following our introductions of the candidates, the format for tonight will be that each candidate gets 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes for each of the subsequent questions, and 2 minutes for closing statements. Candidates may be offered up to 1 minute to respond if directly criticized by their opponent during a question. We collected questions in advance from registered attendees in an online form and considered them when selecting our questions. Our timekeeper, Susan LaGiacono, will ring a bell when you have 30 seconds remaining to speak, and ring the bell twice when your time is up. You will be allowed to finish only the sentence in progress once the second bell rings. Alan Spence is a Southwest Florida native raised in Fort Myers, where he and his wife now raise their son. A graduate of Fort Myers High School and the University of South Florida, Alan spent more than 20 years in finance, overseeing investments, regulatory compliance, and market transparency. Experience, he says, gives him a real-world understanding of the economic challenges facing working families, seniors, and retirees. Alan is running for Congress to bring practical problem-solving and accountability to Washington. Over 1 year of campaigning, he has organized 8 town halls, 3 peaceful protests, and a press conference, creating opportunities for voters to be heard. He's focused on expanding economic opportunity while protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and believes elected officials should be accessible and put results ahead of partisan politics. A lifelong public servant, Matthew Montavon has devoted his career to making government work for the people. From the Peace Corps to local government and the United Nations, he is a pragmatic leader who brings people together for results. He has a track record of dedication to community service and support to the Democratic Party principles of standing up for everyday people. His priorities are affordability, defending democracy, defending voting rights, and building a just immigration system. He also strongly believes in women's rights, protecting the environment, and gun safety legislation. Now we'll move to opening statements. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes, and Alan, you will begin. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I've been in this campaign for over a year, and I've been working really hard to try to earn your vote. And I've been doing that by showing you that I can take on Greg Steube. I have a proven track record of taking him on and winning, getting him to change his activity. I've had the guts to call him out in person, online, and also all of his MAGA-endorsed candidates as well. My primary opponent has not done that this cycle. He has not confronted him in person or online. My policies and my background give me the best chance to win, the best chance to build a coalition of Democrats, NPAs, and Republicans to defeat Greg Steube. I have many, many policies outlined on my website. Some of them are my prosperity agenda, which is my plan to strengthen families and to lower costs. I have an environmental plan called Keep It Wild. I have a plan to reform the government and an education plan as well. But I should be the nominee because, again, I have a proven track record of taking Greg Steube on. I have a better policy platform. I have the education and experience that is called for right now with this economic crisis. I have a degree in economics, and I work in finance. I can build the coalition to defeat Greg Steube. And it's not just me who thinks this way. The past two prior Democratic nominees to take on Greg Steube have both personally endorsed me. And they are confident in my ability to take the fight to Greg Steube. You want to send somebody to Washington that's a fighter, that's going to stand up to the government that we have right now. And that's what I plan to do, and that's what I've been trying to show you. What I've wanted to do that's what I've been trying to show everyone the past year. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew?
I think he directly called me out. I asked for a minute later for a response to that.
During the questions, there will be opportunity for a response. The opening statements is before that. Thank you.
So my name is Matthew Montavon, and it was mentioned some of the things I was doing, the Peace Corps, in the United Nations, local government. I've had that experience. When someone goes to Washington, they got to know how the government works. Having worked in the government, been doing research, a planning director, a research senior analyst with the government, making recommendations for local and state governments, knowing how they operate within the federal, state, and local system. I worked internationally. I know what we need to do in terms of our cooperation around the world. We need to build a world with peace and prosperity. That's not happening now. We need to be working with countries. We need to have allies. We need to find a world system. We need to fight global warming. We need to fight climate change. And I've been a dedicated local volunteer, and my whole life. Whatever I was in, any neighborhood I lived in, I tried to be involved. Washington, D.C., I joined the neighborhood association. We organized a festival for the local people, and I worked with Habitat for Humanity. Where have I been? I've been trying to help. So I know what people are facing. I worked with the Brady campaign on gun safety. I'm not just talking about it. I know what it's about. I'm trying to be involved, trying to help out. I think that gives me the strength. I've also criticized Steube very directly and strongly. And we don't just try to change him, we want to get him out. And that's what my focus will be. To pull people together, to say this is the wrong direction we're going in. We've got to save our country. We've got to save our democracy. Let's get together, get him out, get a Democratic Congress in place, start hearings to make things happen.
Thank you. So now we will move into questions. My first question, and Alan, you will start, is if elected, what are the 2 or 3 federal issues you would prioritize first and why?
I would prioritize a couple economic issues first. So my prosperity agenda, we need to repeal the tariffs that are illegal, that are in place. We need to provide some real relief to people so we can, I support making the child tax credit paid monthly, and I support the earned income tax credit paid monthly. Those are some of the things that we could do for working families to make some immediate impact on them. Another thing that I would want to do would be to get rid of the wage cap on Social Security. So right now, Social Security is facing a crisis. In 2032, benefits will be cut by 23% unless Congress does something. And what I want to do, we've seen the current administration not do anything with health care when the ACA Act subsidies went away. I want to get rid of the wage cap. If you make more than $185,000 a year, you can keep paying into Social Security. And if we did that, people can still get all the benefits and have no cuts. So those are some of the issues, that I would do first when I get into office. There's also, a host of other issues. We can talk about the environment. A big thing that right now is the AI data centers, and we need some rules around AI data centers, and Congress needs to act on that. But I'll throw one more thing out there as well, is the Affordable Care Act. We have to work on health care as well, and that would be an immediate resumption of those enhanced subsidies that went away at the beginning of this year. Thank you.
Yeah, you
That's
have
okay.
an additional.
I'm fine.
Thank you. Mr. Montavon?
We've had some drastic cuts to the bring back SNAP, to restore some of the funding to Medicaid and Medicare. Those things are going to hurt people directly, and that needs to be addressed. We need well, I think we need to start just getting control of our government. And I would push for hearings immediately to start looking at the corruption, abuse, and mismanagement in our government. It's hurting everything. You know, when you could try to list all the problems we have, and it comes from just a very incompetent administration. So we've got to get those hearings going, throw out people who are doing it wrong, and maybe even impeach the president if it leads to that, because there's too much abuse going on, too much stealing and corruption. We need to address the immigration question. For this business of pulling people out of their families, people who've been here 10, 20, 30 years, contributing to the society. They're working, they're paying taxes. Is it right to just slam them into these horrendous prisons? You know, this inhumane treatment. We're going to look back at our history and we're going to say, how did we do this? How could we have been so stupid and cruel? Because it's not only hurting a lot of people, it's hurting our economy. So I think we need to work on a just immigration bill and settle that. Oh, and so it's a well, I think I made my point. So within a minute and a half.
Thank you. Thank you. So our next question, and Matthew, you can answer first, is give me an example of one of your aforementioned priorities and explain to me your approach about how you would turn that into law.
Well, I think anything that happens in Congress is, when you get to Congress, you've got to start building your allies, finding people who have like-minded, and even people on the other side of the aisle who may see the reason of your approach. Build those alliances, and then you create a bill. You say that, you know, we need a bill to restore the, well, let's take immigration reform, because it's probably the easiest, because there have been bills that have put forward, and there were bills that the Republicans supported. Yet, Trump said, no, we don't want that. And so they killed the bill, even though people saw it was a reasonable approach. So I think that the approach would be to build those, get a bill written, lots of co-sponsors, and drive it through the Congress and try to make those changes. Now we're running into the obstacle of Trump will veto anything, probably, that's reasonable. But we hope to build a coalition that's strong enough. Hope we can get enough Democrats in Congress and enough Republicans seeing the failures of the Trump administration and turning around to say, you know, this is time where we got to start thinking of our country and our future and make a difference. So I would hope to approach it. That has to be the way to work in Congress. We've got to work with people and find the solutions and push them forward, even over Trump's veto if necessary.
Thank you. Alan, thank you.
I think right now we have to get through. The next 2 years are going to be about stopping, the president and his tyrannical policies that he's putting forth to the people in this country, the violations of the Constitution. So the next 2 years are going to be a lot about stopping the bleeding and stopping what's happening. But there will be opportunities to work with people on the other side on what I call wraparound issues. And one of the things that I believe is a wraparound issue is the regulation of AI data centers. You mentioned me talk about it before. I have something called Keep It Wild, and one of my plans is about AI data centers. There's a data center that's being proposed in Northport that's very close to a school. And it's very important that my policy position, the goal is to shift the costs of the data center use onto the end user. That's what's missing now. That's why there's so many queries and there's so much demand for that, because the end user is not paying the true costs for that. So we would need to have federal oversight of the water source, the permitting on the water. The data center was proposed in DeSoto County. They didn't propose how they were going to get the water or how much they were going to use. Were they going to drill into the aquifer, or were they going to buy water from the city? Nobody knows. We need to, people who have a data center moving next to them, they deserve compensation. The sound and the pollution that comes from these, their home is being destroyed. It's worth less, and their quality of life is less as well. The power rates in the data centers, it's causing the power to rise for the people. So one of the things I want is the data centers to have, they should pay a higher cost for electricity than what residential use pays. Because otherwise, all the power is going to go to the data centers, and already we're seeing our electric bill go up time and time again. And part of the problem of that is that Greg Stubbe is bought by special interests. He's not going to do anything to push back against the people that are raising your rates.
Thank you. Our third question is about Greg Stubbe, who has held this seat since 2019 and has largely coasted through re-election. How are you going to make him actually respond to your candidacy rather than just coast through the campaign? And this goes to Spence. You can answer first. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I've already been doing this. I got him to close his office in Venice. I gained access to his office. We took evidence of that, and we started raising awareness to the community. And as a result, Greg Stubbe is not advertising that office on his website or his letterhead because it was a fake office. He misrepresented what that office was to his constituents every time he sent a letter or email out, and it's closed because of me. He went to the yacht basin in Fort Myers, and I called him out because he's never had a town hall. He's a coward. He's played in more congressional baseball games than he's had town halls. I've had 8 town halls. He doesn't even live in the redrawn district. So I have a track record of going at him and getting him to change his behavior. He is not going to avoid me. I'm going to run circles around Greg Stubbe, and I'm going to win by talking to people on the other side and talking about the Constitution a lot and how Greg Stubbe has enabled the president to violate the Constitution time and time again. We need people to be. They need to be more loyal to their country right now than that's what we need. That's what's missing to Greg Stubbe. He is more loyal to the president than the people he represents, and I'm going to lay that story out. And if he doesn't address me, he's going to look really, really ridiculous. So that's my plan. That's what I've been doing.
Thank you.
We could play performance politics and we could shut in office, but that doesn't get Greg Stubbe out of the office. We got to attract that middle ground, those disaffected Republicans, and we have to convince them, and I think a lot of them are feeling it, that this guy is not doing what we need to see done. A lot of people are suffering. The price of everything going up, the difficulties of when these subsidies are cut, when you're losing your SNAP benefits, when you can't get your medical care, when the veterans are complaining about services being cut at the Veterans Administration. I mean, these are the issues that are going to make people say, we need a difference, we need a change, we need something better. And that's what I would do. I've been on independent podcasts. We have to reach out to the independents, and that would be the very major focus of my campaign, is to get to those independent groups, wherever they are, the chambers of commerce, whatever it is, to talk to them about how these policies are hurting their business. They don't know, what the tariff's going to be next week. We've got to be, I think a lot of people are going to see the failures of this administration and of their minion, Stubbe. I've been attacking Stubbe since I ran in 2024, so I have experience going after him. I've reported on his abuses. I have a whole list of posts and statements I put out. I was recognized by the Florida magazine, Florida Politics, for my Stubbe watch, when I was keeping an eye on Stubbe and reporting on his abuses. So we show his abuses, but we got to talk to the people and convince them that this is a better alternative. This is a chance to do it. We can do it.
You can have extra time on this question if you wish. 30 seconds. Thank you.
I believe that in conclusion, people are going to see that there's a need to have this change. So it's a question of getting to them. And I will do my best to do that, to reach the people, to say, this is the alternative.
Thank you.
The bottom line is that Mr. Montavon has not.
Thank you.
I don't have a chance to speak.
Well, you earlier in the opening statements, I granted him the extra 30
I got
seconds
you.
because
No problem.
because of the.
I apologize for speaking out.
Yeah, no, it's okay, no problem. Thank you. So, this district runs from Newtown to Fort Myers and rural Charlotte County. What are the similarities you see between these parts of your district, and how would you represent them all at once? And Mr. Montavon, you can go first.
Well, you have to get into the constituencies that exist. There's quite a lot of diversity. You have the city dwellers, very wealthy city dwellers. You've got a lot of suburbanites and retirement gated communities. But you also have your communities like Newtown or in Dunbar, in Fort Myers. Isolated, or well, not isolated, but very distinct communities. Then you have your rural farm environment as well. So you have to look at those communities and say, well, what are their needs? And that's what I've been trying to do. I've been quite frequently in Newtown, and I've been endorsed by some of their prominent citizens, Jetson Grimes and Willie May, or Willie. Willie Shaw, I'm sorry. Willie Shaw, who'd been a mayor of Sarasota. So I will reach out to those communities. I also have an agricultural background, and I would think that I would get to the farming communities as well. When I was running before, I went out to a farm meeting in DeSoto County to be in front of the agricultural environment. So I'm looking at all the communities. I could list all the places I've been. People say, I see you everywhere. And I try to be everywhere. And I try to be engaged as much as possible. So that's what I'll continue to do. And I'll identify the needs of those communities, and I'll try to address those communities, underserved communities, as well as those who have other political interests or business interests, whatever is involved. I'll be there for them, and that's what I do, and that's all I've done my whole life, and I'll continue to do it.
Thank you.
So one of the advantages of being a lifelong Floridian and even graduating high school from Fort Myers High is that I know what the issues are for the people on the ground in these communities. I've seen Fort Myers change over the past 20 years. I've lived in Charlotte County for many years. I understand those issues that are facing the community. I served as an assistant scoutmaster in my son's troop in Punta Gorda, and you meet a diverse group of people serving that role, and you understand the problems, and you get to teach youth about different things. Charlotte County, it's very unique. I live out in Babcock Ranch, but that's a lot different than what you see, the very extreme rural part of the county that you see when you go into driving into Punta Gorda. So being a lifelong Floridian, I understand these issues. I too have spent much time in Dunbar, in Fort Myers. I've spent time in Newtown. I've spent time all over places in this district. So that's reflected in some of my endorsements. You see, I've been endorsed by the Democratic Environmental Caucus of Florida. And we have a very tough road in Florida. We have to balance growth and economic opportunity with preservation and preserving the wild spaces. That's why one of the things that's most important to me in my environmental policy is the Florida Wildlife Corridor. We have things, all kinds of endangered species that need this land. We have the Florida panther, the Florida scrub jay. And what I want to do to expand the Florida Wildlife Corridor is have the federal government give grants to the state, so the states can then take that money and they can buy these orange grove fields that have not producing anymore, because otherwise they're going to get turned into subdivisions without any infrastructure, or they're going to get turned into data centers. We can't have unconstrained growth. We have to grow responsibly and preserve our wild areas.
Thank you. So, Congress has ceded much of its war powers authority to the executive branch over the past 2 decades, including on decisions about military aid, and weapons transfers like U.S. support tied to the war in Gaza and, of course, the war in Iran. Would you support reasserting Congress's role under a war powers resolution? And how would you approach checking executive authority on military aid decisions specifically? And Mr. Spence, you can start.
Yeah, this is one of the things that is a top issue for our country right now. We see this unnecessary war in Iran driving the price of things like gasoline, urea. We see our soldiers getting killed overseas. We see our government doing things that we don't want it to do. You know, this war, the House and the Senate have both voted against this war. And this war should have stopped a long time ago. But the problem is we have representatives like Greg Steube in Congress who are more loyal to the president than the Constitution or the people that they represent. How I would fix that problem is I would not vote for any more funding for the Department of Defense. They would not get any more money from Congress. That's the way I would vote in Congress, because they are not following. They're not following the Constitution. Furthermore, the people in the military that gave the orders and pulled the trigger to execute the people in the boats in the Caribbean Sea, all those people, we arrest criminals here, we don't execute them. So those people need to be held accountable under the fullest extent of the law. They should be prosecuted, the people that pulled the trigger, the people that gave the orders, and everyone in the command chain. It's very important that we make an example, because we cannot have our military executing non-combatants.
It was included. He's welcome to say whatever he'd like. Yeah.
Trump has basically done impeachable offenses. The bombing of the boats, the war that we didn't want, Congress didn't want, and he's executing this war, spending billions of dollars, and it's Trump's war. I wouldn't call it the Iran war, it's Trump's war. And he owns it. And we've got to get a Congress in place to stand up to this garbage, you know, to question this and cut off funding, to hold him accountable. You know, we're giving away our democracy. You know, if we don't get people in place who are strong, who know how the government works, who can really lay down the law, we are going to lose our country. We're going to lose our freedom. We're going to lose our democracy. So it's essential, and I will address Scott's as well. You know, the abuse that we've seen from Israel. Israel's our friend. They should have respected that friendship. But they've gone so far with the random murder of people. People who are military experts have said, you know, there's no reason. You don't have to take down a whole hospital because there might be a Hamas guy underneath it. You know, this is wrong. It's abusive. And we have to lay down the law with Israel. They have to be respectful of our friendship and not be manipulating Trump for their own interests. It's wrong. We need to have control by Congress. Congress needs to force the administration to respect the law and impeach Trump if necessary, because these abuses have gone too far.
Thank you. So starting with Matthew, how would you approach checking executive authority more broadly?
Well, Congress has the power of the purse, and that is the key to everything. To cut off the funding, to say that this, you know, if you have to shut down the government, so be it. But I think that at some point you got to say it's gone too far. The abuse has gone too far. We have to stop this. You know, I worked in lots of administrations. You know, I never could imagine something like this happening. You know, that someone could be so abusive and get away with it. Abusing all laws, abusing all the standards of the office. I think it's just the power. You have to exercise the power of the purse. That's where Congress really has the authority. It's the power of the purse. And then investigations. Hold hearings on this, that, and the other things. tie the administration down, to restrict them from doing any more damage, and making sure that we hold on to our country. So it's a question of where Congress uses its power, hearings, and budget. Control those, and you could manage the government.
Thank you. Alan?
You heard me talk earlier about not funding this war in Iran. That would be one way to stop it. Another way that we would do it is I want to make examples. I want to make examples of the people in the administration, people in the cabinet that have violated the law, and they've done things that is against the law. So we have, and I also want to go after the next generation of leadership. We have to send in a message and set an example so we never have this happen again. Pam Bondi, she had the Epstein files. Everything was redacted when the law called for it not to be redacted. That needs to be explained. The people running the FBI, they have to account for the redactions as well. Christine Noem, we need to go after her. We need to go after people like Howard Lutnick in the administration, Scott Bessent. Lutnick said he went to Epstein's house and saw a guy had a massage parlor in his living room and never went back and never dealt with him again. And then the Epstein files come out, and there's Howard Lutnick walking on the beach of Epstein Island. He lied to the American people on a podcast. And, these people that do these bad things, we have to make examples of them so that it doesn't happen again. These people that committed these crimes also, they need a record. We don't need these people to become president again. Marco Rubio. The list goes on and on of the people in the government that are complicit. So the president is one thing, but we really have to go after the people that enable the president to have this crazy executive power that he has right now and act like a tyrant. Because if people didn't do what he asked, he wouldn't have any power. And that's what we need right now. We need people that stand up to the president in these abuses. So we need to make examples of the people that were doing the opposite of that and enabling the president.
Thank you. The next question is, how would you approach immigration enforcement, and what would the reforms look like that you would push for in immigration, including for maybe protections for DACA, and what would be the status of ICE?
Is that me first or Matt first? Me.
And that one's going to be Alan first. Yeah.
So on my website, I have a whole immigration plan. I encourage everybody to take a look at it. It's full of specific things that we will do. It starts with getting rid of racial profiling in immigration enforcement. We can start there. We can start with the officers taking off their mask. We can start with the immigration officers identifying who they are and what department they work for and their supervisor. These are basic things that have to be done. Undocumented immigrants that are here right now that have not committed a violent crime, they need a 5-year pause on immigration enforcement so that they can apply for permanent residency. So that would put them on a path towards citizenship. If they got that permanent residency, they could become permanent citizens. TPS, we want Congress involved so the president can't yank these people's status on a whim. If he had a bad dream or a bad nightmare, these people have their lives. They don't know where they're going to be next. I've spoken to people from Haiti and Ukraine recently about this very topic. The Border Patrol needs to go back to the border. The Border Patrol is trained to track people in a wilderness environment. They're not trained to be in an urban environment. And we've seen what happens when they're in an urban environment. They've murdered people. So all of the people in these DHS, ICE, Customs and Border Patrol that violated people's civil rights, the people deserve to sue those agents civilly, and they also deserve to be held to the fullest account of the law. They need to be responsible for the actions that they had, the things that they have done to people, these inhumane things. These people, if they found to do these things, they need to be put on a do not hire list. These people should never, ever work for the federal government. And they probably shouldn't have any type of retirement benefits either. So we need common sense immigration reform. The problem is that Congress has failed us. They could have done it in the summer of 2024, and Trump asked Congress not to do it. And it goes to people like Greg Steube being more loyal to the president than the people.
Thank you.
Oh, we hear a lot about going after all these different people, and that's probably right. But the problem is that the president, let's talk about going after the president, because he's directing all of this and he's accepting all of it. So I would just say that as an opening statement, but we could have an immigration system that has a secure border, but can still treat people humanely. I work with the Latino populations. I work with the Illinois Migrant Council, with the farm workers. I've been in Central America, working in the Peace Corps, meeting the Latinos, and people talk about going to the United States. And I helped start the Immigration Justice Coalition here in Sarasota. So I'm directly involved, and I'm not just looking it up on AI or anything. I've been meeting with people, talking to people, and I understand the circumstances many of these people are facing. We need to have a path to citizenship for those who've been here for many years. If they're not criminals, give them a path to citizenship. They've been working, they've had families, they've got their roots here, they've been paying taxes, they're productive members of our society. And to rip them out of their families and try to deport them and put them in these expensive, abusive prisons, the whole thing is insane. It hurts our economy, it's a waste of money. Also give DACA a path to citizenship. And we need to investigate ICE, definitely. Investigate ICE, it needs to be drastically reformed, and the rules have to change drastically. And if they can't be changed, abolish it, cut the funding, because it's, we can't tolerate this abuse any longer. It's a stain on our national character.
Thank you. The current administration has narrowed the federal definition of wetlands and rolled back related EPA protections. What is your position, and what would you do about it in Congress, starting with you, Matthew?
There's so many, so many environmental faults this administration has had in terms of rolling back protections for wetlands and our national parks. They're ready to drill. They're trying to change the rules so that there's not even an environmental review when the government wants to do a project. So they can dismiss an environmental review, just plow through Chaco Canyon, a national monument, plow through the Everglades Lakes. They'd be able to do just about anything. So we've got to stand up for these environmental regulations. I've supported the Sierra Club and other nature organizations, and we've got to protect it. It's part of our heritage, but it's also part of our economy and our well-being that we need to protect, the beauty of it. What irks me most, and this is a little bit going off subject, but is the whole emphasis on fossil fuels. The world is saying this is not where we should be going because we're destroying our planet. And Trump has said, cut those renewable energy projects. Let's get coal running again. Even though we know those coal plants don't want to run because they've been old, they're obsolete, and they're expensive. Even to try to get them to run again is going to cost a fortune. So in the whole environmental area, it's another disaster, and we've got to stand up to it and get a Congress in place. We talked about the data centers, but it's some of that is, there's environmental danger to that, but some of it is required by the states and localities to control.
Thank you.
Again, I've been endorsed by the Democratic Environmental Caucus of Florida. Why? Because I know these issues the best. I have a plan. It's called Keep It Wild. One of the things you've heard me talk about AI data centers, you've already heard me talk about the Florida Wildlife Corridor. Let's talk about the runoff that we see in the Caloosahatchee River. One of the things that I would speak to so many people, they tell me is they're upset that polluters, they get away with polluting that they don't have to pay. And that's what's missing. One of the things that I would support would be a cap and trade scheme like we did when we got rid of acid rain for fertilizer. That would make polluters pay for the pollution abatement when these fertilizers run off in the Caloosahatchee that result in the algae blooms, that result in fish kills, that also end up resulting in people having respiratory distress as well. On my environmental plan with the AI data centers, we're talking about one thing I didn't mention before was that these data centers, they want to have their own power plants. I'm totally against that. I'm totally against them having their own power plants. If you look in Memphis, the NAACP is suing XAI, their Colossus data center, because they've put up these natural gas turbines that are causing respiratory diseases in the community there. It's causing asthma and cancers at higher rates. They said they didn't do it, but somebody put a thermal drone up there, and they are operating a whole power plant there. So it's very, very important that we don't let these AI data centers. We need to protect green industry. We need to do what China does. China, if they have an industry that they want to protect, they subsidize it like they do their electric vehicles. We need to get back to that. We need to subsidize solar power. You go outside today, it's very sunny, it's very hot. Where I live, we get our power from the sun. It is scalable and it is a solution. We just need the political will to make it happen. And that's reflected in my Keep It Wild environmental plan.
Thank you. So our next question is, Florida's property insurance market is a major strain on homeowners here. What federal level action is needed on insurance regulation? And Alan starts with this one.
Sure. This is addressed in my prosperity agenda. What we have right now in the state of Florida is, and really in this whole country, we have insurance companies that are taking advantage of people. They have record profits. They increase the share buybacks. They increase their dividends, but they cry poor to state regulators, and they say they're not making enough money. They do this through the use of subsidiaries at the state level, where they they show fake losses to state regulators to justify premium increases. And this is connected to a lot of different things. We have, just today, I read an article about the property and casualty insurance market, that they're being stressed because they're writing so many policies on AI data centers. And it's just another way that these AI data centers are going to raise the cost on people. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of these state subsidiaries. If a company writes property insurance in Kansas and they're a big insurance company, they should have to write insurance in Florida, because according to this, I studied this in college, the pricing of insurance, you get the lowest cost insurance by spreading the risk out amongst as many people as possible. And when companies, they start cherry picking locations, they'll miss like a year like last year. We didn't have any storms last year really in Florida compared to other years. So it's very important that these insurance companies are forced to write policies nationwide, and they not use their subsidiaries to show these fake losses to justify premium rates. On top of that, we need a program where the federal government can backstop the reinsurance market if there's a catastrophic event or events as well. That's something that I would be open to, and I would support. And everybody here sees insurance rates. But one thing that our politicians are not listening to us, and politicians should take their agency and they should try to solve these problems no matter what. And that's my philosophy in what I'm doing.
Thank you.
The insurance market, let's face it, it reflects reality. And we live in a risk environment. People in Kansas are not going to want to pay for our problems here, frankly. So let's face it, we are going to have some costs in terms of insurance. I'm being realistic. The federal government should regulate the industry and should ensure that there's no excess profit, and I think there's probably ways of managing that to ensure that there's no excess profit. But the industry is what it is. One of the ways we have to start thinking long term is to do a better job of managing our environment. Where we build, what we're doing in terms of the climate, how we build. All of these elements have to be taken into consideration. I think it is important to have a catastrophic fund in place, and the state has it to some extent, but I think the federal government needs it as well. And it's probably going to become more and more required and apparent because of the environmental disasters across the country. The fires in California, have been more intensive tornadoes. So all these things will have to be addressed. I think a catastrophic fund would be probably the best way to address it, although some control of the insurance industry as well.
Thank you. So this came up a little bit during our previous discussion, but we have an abundant source of energy shining down on us all the time. And I'm wondering how you think, from the federal government, you can help Florida capitalize on solar energy. And this one starts with, Matthew. Yes, thank you.
We need solar energy, and it's cheaper now than fuel. And why we're turning away from it is another one of those insanities of the Trump administration. The Florida could do some things itself. I put solar panels on my house, and that federal subsidy helped me a lot. I bought a plug-in hybrid. That federal subsidy helped me a lot too, to buy my car. All these things that were there in place, but they've now been taken away. They've been cut. We got to put those back. Probably make them more generous. People are ready to move to solar. They want to move to solar. They're starting to see the advantages, the financial benefit. I pay $25. I got to pay $25 to be connected to the grid, but otherwise I haven't paid much for electricity in the last 8 years. It's paid off. It paid off itself by just putting solar panels on my home. We've got to provide more incentives and look at bigger plants across the country. They were going in almost automatically, although Florida government hasn't helped much. But you drive across the west, you see the windmills, you see the fields of solar panels, and you hear about the wind turbines out on the sea. All of this makes sense. We just gotta get some sense in the White House, and we could do it. Everybody's on board.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, so I believe strongly that solar energy is the future. You've already heard me talk about it today in this forum. But we need more. We need these solar trees everywhere. You have a picnic table at a park, and there's an awning. There should be solar panels on top of that, and that should go to power that park, should go back into the grid. It's a very common sense solution, especially in Florida, where we have so many structures that are facing the sun. We need those subsidies for people to buy everything that Mr. Montavon was saying, whether it's their cars, whether it's their house. We need that, but we need to subsidize the manufacturing of solar energy. We need the country to get behind this as the future. We need there to be incentives for manufacturing so that we can have what President Biden really wanted, was a green energy boom. We can still make that happen. And unfortunately, it goes back to all this the chaos that we have in the government right now. We need the people that didn't spend the money that Congress said to spend it on something. Those people, they need to be held accountable. Because we can't have bureaucrats not spending money that Congress has appropriated. That is something that needs to be addressed in the future of this country. We need more communities like where I live in Babcock Ranch. It was the largest, at the time, it was the largest private land purchase that the state of Florida made, and 78,000 acres of that land is never going to be developed. And of what's developed, half of it is green space. But we get all of our power from the sun there, so we can have scalable solar energy in the United States. And when the president says it's a scam or people tell you it's not scalable, like, I live it every day. I know that it's real.
Thank you. Southwest Florida deals with coastal flooding and development pressure. How would you support the region in confronting these issues from Washington? We'll start with Alan.
So it goes back to encouraging, smart growth. Again, where I live in Babcock Ranch, it's thought with flooding. It's set up in a right way with the infrastructure to where that it won't flood, and if it does flood, there's mitigation plans in places. The developers that build these subdivisions without any thought to infrastructure, that's where we end up getting this flooding from. Local municipalities need to take the lead here. The federal government needs to support them. Some cities are already making a lot of progress. The city of Miami Beach, they've done a lot to mitigate flooding, the sea rise specifically in Miami Beach. And New York mitigated a lot of damage after Superstorm Sandy. They didn't want that to happen again, and that's what we need. Instead of people putting their head in the sand, we need people to be realistic. But the federal government should help with that transition. It should be part of that green program that I was talking about is preparing our country for the future. But in terms of flooding, one of the things that's in my prosperity agenda is residential flood barriers. I've seen homes where the Mississippi River floods and people have these barriers around their house and they're not affected. I want new homes to be built with these residential flood barriers. The builders provide it, and then the people who have it, they get a discount on their flood insurance because there'll be fewer flood insurance claims, and the flood insurance claims that we have will actually be less amount of money. Now, the people need to use them when they're under a flood watch or a flood warning. They need to use them. And then we also need to incentivize it through people who already have homes. We can incentivize it through the tax code that people can buy these flood barriers and they get some sort of tax credit. But that's a common sense solution that will lead to fewer insurance claims, and people will like it because they're not going to have to deal with flooded homes or as much of a flooded home when we have these events. We're going to have more hurricanes here. It's just a matter of when we're going to have those hurricanes, so we need to be ready.
Thank you. Mr. Montavon?
We should not be building at all in floodplains. It's just you know what the consequence is going to be, and you talk a lot about barriers and so forth. You need construction that's elevated and it has to be high enough to avoid the flooding. The federal government definitely needs to provide some support, subsidies for floodplain mitigation, but this is a consequence. The state has to do it too. This is a consequence of our changing environment. There's no easy solution. You can't say that we can build our way out of it. It's a super expensive operation. You can build the barriers, but we're going to get hurricanes. There's no doubt about it. I think that the federal government has to be involved, and you have to make those mitigation efforts, but the consequences are there for us. And unless we reverse climate change, things will continue to become more difficult. Florida is sea level. And so, how do you get away from it? I'm being too realistic, I think, but it's a tough. We're in a tough situation. So.
Thank you. So, that is all the time we have for questions. But I want to offer you 2 minutes each for closing statements. And Alan, we'll start with you.
So again, I've been trying to earn your vote over the past year by showing you that I'm the candidate that will hold Greg Steube accountable, and I've been doing it. I've encountered him in person. I've called him out in front of his endorsed candidates. I've laid out the problems. I'm calling him out online every chance I get, and I'm presenting a better policy alternative than Greg Steube. I've just been working really hard, speaking to many people. I want to go back in my conclusion here and talk about my overall policy positions. We have my Keep It Wild plan, my environmental plan, the prosperity agenda, my plan to strengthen families and lower cost. I have the student success agenda, which we didn't talk about, but Greg Stubbe is directly, everyone here, we don't like the schools of hope. And Greg Stubbe enabled the schools of hope with a law that he passed when he was in the Florida House. And we can trace this. This is why we have to get these extremists out, like Greg Stubbe, out of office. We need to have these schools of hope should not be able to co-locate in public schools and public facilities and not pay and not be held to the same standards. We have my plan to reform the government. These are just some of my immigration plan. There's so many plans that I have with specifics on the website where I want you to know how I will vote. I know the issues the best. You can see that when you go to my website and you look at my policy positions. You heard it here when I was talking about insurance. Mr. Montavon said to people in Kansas, they don't want to pay for what happens here, but that's the point of insurance. Insurance is meant to be if something happens to you that you're not worse off financially, and everybody, they pay a probability of that event happens. That's what insurance does. People share the risk. That's what insurance is, and it's clear based on an answer that I know this issue the best when it comes to insurance in Florida.
Thank you. Mr. Montavon?
There is a reinsurance market that exists, but they're not paying directly for our insurance. People in Kansas are not paying directly for our insurance. Our insurance companies resell at a higher premium to other insurance companies to spread the risk. So much of what Alan talks about is our local issues and how the local is going to address it. But you've got to look at what the federal government does. The federal government is looking at the whole nation and thinking of policies that address the whole nation. In terms of the environmental catastrophes, it's great to have a fund for the whole nation, but it's not just for Florida. So much of what Alan talks about is he has no experience in it. I have to address this directly. He's been selling or trading stocks his entire life. He hasn't contributed to the community. He hasn't been involved in any community activity except Boy Scouts. I've been in the community. I've been on the international scene. I've been in local government. I've been doing these things. I know how the government works. And I know that there's a process in place. And for everything, you have to come up with solutions. It's not like you can look it up on the internet and you've got the solution. No, it's a matter of analysis, debate, finding from interest groups, finding the response together. It's a big job. Attacking Stubbe for an office or for playing the baseball game that's been run for 100 years is not making a change in our environment. We got to get Stubbe out. We got to be convincing the voters that we need a change. And that's the key to running this campaign, getting Stubbe out, and getting to a better country.
Thank you. That concludes tonight's District 17 Congressional Candidate Forum. Thank you to both of the candidates, Alan Spence and Matthew Montavon, for being here. And thank you to our audience for being here as well. And for all of the listeners live on air or later on our YouTube stream. The primary election will be on August 18th. Have a good night.
You have been listening live to the 4th candidate forum on the stage of Fogartyville Community Center on WSLR, LP 96.5 FM in Sarasota, and WBPV LP 100.1 FM in Bradenton. Coming up right now, the local current with Renee. Stay tuned.